Thanks for joining us here at Rose Quartz Mediumship podcast, where we simply adore anything and everything healing and metaphysically based. I've been in the personal development world for a very long time, and when I took a deep dive into somatic healing, it was the deepest form of healing that I had ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of different healing modalities. And as that healing was really integrated, as I really learned how to heal my nervous system and my body, and what actual healing looked like, so that those same patterns weren't coming up time and time again. When I went from healing being a very cognitive, cerebral experience to being a full being experience of mind, heart, body, and spirit, everything really changed in my reality. And as that integration happened, which happened over a long period of time, I started to notice a real shift inside of myself. And when I did some really deep somatic healing on myself, a couple months later, I noticed that everything felt different. I was finding myself at a much slower pace. And at first, I thought that there was something wrong. I had multiple weeks of feeling like I didn't have energy. Like I wanted to rest. Like I wanted to be quiet. And at first, I thought, oh, this is lovely. I don't have this enormous drive or urge to do, produce. Instead, I found myself leaning into downtime in a way that I'd never leaned into downtime before. Before, I would lean into downtime, but there would be a level of production that came along with it. And as I found myself truly resting, I began to question if there was something wrong. Why do I have this lack of drive? Why do I have this lack of need to produce? And I started to wonder, is this mono? Is there something medically going on with me? That I would do something and then have a couple of hours of not doing. And on the weekends, I found myself not wanting to accomplish 9 million things like I always had. And I found this desire to sit, to lie, to be. And one day it really hit me that the absence of an anxiety pattern of my nervous system was something that I was perceiving as an issue, when what I was actually experiencing was regulation of my nervous system. And I had known that there was a big shift happening for me around regulation of my nervous system. But the day that it really hit me, that the absence of anxiety was what I was experiencing. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong, but this is what it actually feels like to have a regulated nervous system. This is what safety actually feels like. It's the absence of anxiety, the absence of my nervous system being on. And let me just pause and say, when I use the term anxiety, I mean an anxiety pattern of my nervous system. And when I say that, what I mean is that people who run an anxiety pattern of their nervous system, me included, don't know that we're safe. And so there's this constant need to be on, to have your safety up, because inherently I didn't know that I was safe. And so as I began to really understand that I was safe, I didn't have this need to constantly be doing, to constantly be producing, to constantly be in a level of activation. And the absence of that activation felt like there was something wrong, because my nervous system has spent so many years in activation. And that doesn't mean that I don't have periods of activation. I do. A bunch of them all the time. But I very quickly go back to regulation. And that regulation can feel like an easier access to ease and peace and flow. And because I was so used to having a nervous system that was on, that I was just a little bit on all the time, I was a little bit excited all the time, I was ready to go all the time. The absence of that ready to go on felt like I was somehow off, when actually it was regulation. And it took me a period of time to really understand it. Even though cognitively, cerebrally, I understood what regulation would look like and feel like, I didn't know, because I hadn't had the lived experience of having a regulated nervous system, I didn't know what it would actually look and feel like. And when I had it, I wondered if something was wrong, when actually it was the first time that everything felt right. And once I had that epiphany, once I realized that that was what was happening for me, I was able to really lean in and celebrate the ease in my life. I was able to lean in and celebrate the peace, the flow, the slower pace, without the desire to be on, to be activated, to be doing, producing. And for so many people, an anxiety pattern of the nervous system doesn't look like a typical anxiety. It looks like constantly needing to be doing because we don't know that we're safe. And when you realize in your nervous system, in your body, that you are safe, it allows for the space and the time to be slower, to have downtime, to have rest. That everything in life doesn't have to be about producing and accomplishing, checking boxes. That I could just be. That I could just be. And when that really hit me, I just sank into it in the deepest way and felt so much gratitude for the fact that I was getting to experience this. And also really sent a lot of love to the versions of me who didn't know how to slow down, who didn't know how to be, who didn't know how to be in the state of ease or peace or flow. And so I wanted to take a moment and talk about that, because I think it's more common than we talk about. That when we come out of an anxiety pattern, when we actually find safety inside of the body, inside of our nervous system, that it can feel like something's wrong, when it's actually exactly as it should be. That we're meant to experience ease and peace in this human experience. That we don't have to have this constant on activation, doing, producing. And when we find that, it brings the most beautiful balance into life. So I just wanted to take a moment and share that for anyone else who is working on regulating their nervous system and might be feeling like there's something wrong with them, when it's really just the absence of anxiety or the presence of safety. I hope that wherever it is that this podcast is finding you, that you are experiencing some peace and ease and relaxation in your life. And I really appreciate you being here with me.